Yo, so guys, welcome back to another video. This is another random type reaction, and it's another Wendover Productions video that I'm reacting to, and this one is the US President's $2,614 per minute transport system. And I'm kind of thinking, is this for his own travel, or is this something that they've put in place? No, it's going to be for the US President's travelling costs. And I don't really know how it can be this expensive. Maybe we're going to see, but I don't know how this can even be a thing for that per minute. So say they've got like a flight that's 3 hours long. Now let's just say they're going from the capital, so Washington DC, where they live, because obviously they're not going to be there all the time, but Washington DC to London. Let's just see that. Washington DC to London flight. Hopefully there's actually flights from these two places. 7 hours. Oh my days. So 7 hours. So that's 425 minutes. 425 times 2614. I mean, this might not even be what the video is fully about. $1 million. And let's convert this. So dollars to pounds, just so I know. So it's $1 million. Oh, $1.1 million. 815,000 pounds. Oh my god. Wait, no, yeah. Okay. That is ridiculous. So I'm interested in seeing them, if this is actually what the video is about. Because if so, because the president flies a lot, like all over the place, constantly, and he's probably going to be flying from further destinations at some points to other destinations. But maybe this isn't actually what the video. That's just what I'm thinking. I'm kind of confused now. But let's get into this one. Hopefully, you guys are going to enjoy. We're already starting off with the rambling. We're like 2 minutes into the video, and my head's already gone. But check this out. Hopefully, you guys are going to enjoy. Quick shout out to my Instagram and my Twitter, links in the description for those interested in following me on those socials, and the same for my second channel. Links are all there for those who want to subscribe to my second channel. But let's get into this one.
This is a Wendover Productions video made possible by Squarespace.
Get
your domain before
Squarespace with
with
Skillshare in it all the time.
Moving the President of the United States from one location to another is a logistical nightmare that happens every single day.
Security, that's actually something that I didn't really sort of factor into it. Security, there'd have to be so much security.
The American president is one of the most powerful persons in the world, and there is no time when the president is more exposed than when they're in transport. 2 of the 4 successful assassinations of American presidents were when they were traveling, Garfield and Kennedy. For that reason, the Secret Service devotes an enormous amount of resources to ensuring the president gets from one place to another safely. The Presidential Motorcade is perhaps the most impressive method of transportation. It includes up to 40 or 50 vehicles and over 100 people. Let's take a look at some footage of a motorcade. This is the lead car, or in this case, motorcycle. As the name suggests, its job is to lead the motorcade, but it's not actually the first vehicle. What we don't see here is the route car, which would have come through about 5 minutes before the lead car. The route car is always followed by about 20 or 30 motorcycles, which play the essential role of clearing the route of cars. When driving on a highway, they'll speed ahead and close exits so that no cars can come on the highway.
Really?
Although they have to use a different technique in cities. When driving in DC, where other drivers are used to frequent motorcades, the motorcycles often drive in a V pattern, pushing cars to the side to clear the way for the motorcade. This leads to a disruption of only about 2 or 3 minutes. Outside of DC, drivers are less used to motorcades, so the motorcycles will typically completely block off the intersecting streets to create one continuous clear path for the president. The entire first section of the motorcade isn't actually run by the Secret Service. It's run by the local police jurisdiction of wherever the president is. The fewer Secret Service cars and individuals needed for motorcades, the better, since both the cars and agents need to travel to wherever the president is visiting in advance, which is, of course, incredibly expensive. The next part of the motorcade is what's known as the secure package. It's the essential core to the motorcade because it's the group of cars that directly secures the president. In case of attack, This group of cars can detach from the rest of the motorcade and function as an independent unit. The most important car in the secure package is the president's limo, but one can never be sure which one that is, because there are always two limos.
Oh, wow.
These two limos are
Double
identical.
bluff.
They even have the same license plate. That way, an attacker can't, for example, have a spotter tell them which car the president left their origin in.
That
The
is
limos
smart,
themselves are no ordinary limos. They weigh between 15,000 and 20,000 pounds and are built on a modified truck bed. The entire car is bulletproof, including 5-inch thick bulletproof windows. The only window that can open is the driver's window, reportedly so they can pay tolls. The entire car is hermetically sealed to protect the president from a chemical attack.
This is like a car, like, from like, in 100 years sort of time in the future kind of thing. Like, bulletproof windows that are 5 inches? Not inches wide, surely not.
Reportedly so they can pay tolls. 5-inch thick bulletproof
5
windows.
inch?
The entire car is bulletproof, including 5-inch thick bullet.
Bro, that's like that. That's like... Yo, are you mad? 5 inch? That is unreal. Oh my days. I don't know why
windows. The only window that can open is the driver's window, reportedly so they can pay tolls. The entire car is hermetically sealed to protect the president from a chemical attack, and on board are rocket-powered grenades, night vision optics, a tear gas cannon, pump-action shotguns, bottled oxygen.
Bro, this is something from GTA. This is like in the next DLC on GTA. They're gonna be well, not even next DLC. They've literally got cars like this on GTA with like missiles in it and like all weapons and just all this kind of stuff, all this advanced technology. How much would it cost to build one of these cars? Hopefully he says, but if he doesn't, how much does it cost to build like one of these cars that carries the president in?
And 2 pints of the president's blood type. This car, leading the secure package, is the United States Secret Service Electronic Countermeasures Suburban. It leaves the secure package because its purpose is to jam any remote activated explosives along the route. These 2 tall antennas do that by sending out a huge range of radio frequencies that would block any bomb activation signal. The 2 domes on top of the car are most likely what's known as electronic warfare sensors. They're essentially radars that can detect when a rocket-propelled grenade or anti-tank guided missile is launched. When it detects a launch, the car would most likely activate a number of smoke grenades spread out throughout the secure package, which would help throw off the grenade or missile. But of course this is all classified, so that's speculation. This car is the control car. It carries the most essential staff, like the president's military aide and doctor. In the event of an attack, they're both essential to the president, so they break off with the secure package. These last 2 cars are both filled with Secret Service agents. The closer one is called the Halfback. It carries the president's personal Secret Service detail. These are the agents that are on the president's person at all times. The second one is the Cat car, the counter assault team. You can always identify these cars since they're the ones with a back window open. That's because the agents are sitting in rear-facing seats with automatic weapons, ready to respond to threats. While it's hard to see, you can just make out the counter-assault team in this car in black battle dress uniforms and the president's Secret Service detail in this car in coat and tie. In the event of an attack, the president's Secret Service detail is in charge of shielding and evacuating the president, while the counter-assault team would generally stay and repel the attack. These vans, following the secure package, are full of the press pool reporting on the president. This car is called the ID car, and the Secret Service agents inside are the ones that communicate with...
So this isn't even for flying, this is literally just for driving at this point. So I mean, hopefully it touches upon flying, because obviously the thumbnail has a plane in it. I hope it does, so I can't imagine what sort of security they would have in them sort of situations.
Outside counter-surveillance teams that proactively identify any threat to the motorcade. This black truck is the Hazardous Materials Mitigation Unit. It has equipment and personnel who can identify and respond to chemical, nuclear, or biological attacks on the motorcade. Continuing on, you can see more press vans. These motorcycles are speeding by the side because, now that the motorcade has passed the exit that they were blocking off, they are going to the front of the motorcade to block off more exits. This car is called the Roadrunner. It has a number of antennae on the top to act as a mobile communication center. It connects the motorcade to the outside world through satellite and internet communication systems. Following this is a generic ambulance in case of injury to any person in the motorcade. Like the police officers at the front of the motorcade, this ambulance just comes from the local fire department of wherever the president is. This last Secret Service car is the support car, which carries more Secret Service agents and the essential staff members. Lastly, these 3 police cars are there to make sure that, now that the exits are open again, no car speeds up and enters the motorcade from behind.
That is so
It's important
sick.
to note that this is just the standard motorcade configuration. It often changes.
That's just the standard, so you can get a lot more security than that. You can get a lot more cars and a lot more protection. How? How is that even possible?
Based on the environment.
I mean, I know
When
how it's
President
possible,
Obama visited Iraq
real.
in 2009, for example, his motorcade looked like this. Military Humvees led a convoy of identical Suburbans, one of which carried the president. On top of the cars were more powerful versions of the anti-RPG antenna found on the normal electronic countermeasures Suburban. So, motorcades are incredibly efficient. It's been reported that motorcades have made the trip between LaGuardia Airport and the Waldorf Astoria Hotel in Manhattan in 8 to 10 minutes. That's a 10-mile drive that takes a normal driver 25 to 30 minutes. Although the safest motorcade is still no motorcade, since it's the most exposed the president ever is. So the Secret Service will typically only use motorcades for trips up to 30 minutes long. Motorcades are also incredibly logistically difficult and expensive. So whenever possible, the president will travel on Marine One. Marine One isn't actually the name of a specific helicopter. It's rather the call sign used by any helicopter with the president aboard.
So me searching at the start from cost to fly from the UK to or DC to London is just irrelevant because they just fly and I guess they don't really have. I mean, we'll see, but I'm guessing this is nowhere near as costly as the ones we've just seen.
The Marine
Nowhere
Corps
near.
operates 35 total helicopters of a few different types as Marine Ones, which might seem like overkill, but these helicopters are also often used to transport the Vice President when they're known as Marine 2 or government VIPs. While Marine One is occasionally used to transport the president from point to point, its most frequent mission is to bring the president from the White House to Andrews Air Force Base. The president's planes are based at Andrews Air Force Base, so this 12-mile trip is how the president starts and finishes any long-distance trip. Much like the president's limo, Marine One never flies alone. Right after takeoff, it's met by as many as 5 other identical helicopters which shuffle positions in flight to throw off potential attackers. Air Force One is also not a particular aircraft, but rather the call sign used whenever the president is aboard an Air Force aircraft. Typically, the role is served by one of 2 modified Boeing 747s.
God
To
damn.
give you a sense of how efficient this entire transport system is, let's time a trip from the White House to the UN headquarters in New York. The 12-mile flight to Andrews Air Force Base takes about 8 minutes on Marine One. Then, upon arrival, the president steps on board Air Force One. The president is always the last person to step on Air Force One. So the second he is there, the door closes and the aircraft taxis for takeoff. That means there's about 5 minutes between touchdown of Marine One and takeoff of Air Force One. From there, it's about a 30-minute flight to JFK Airport in New York, followed by a 7-minute trip on Marine One to downtown Manhattan Heliport. Then a 6-minute motorcade up FDR Drive to the United Nations.
Bro, this
That
must be so hard to just set up and all that kind of stuff. It seems like that's such a hassle. Obviously, it makes sense as to why they do it. But to have, it just seems like, and this is just for like a shorter journey as well. For longer type journeys, this must be so hectic. Being a president can't be fun. Being like in charge of a country like a prime minister or president cannot be fun, man. I mean, that's an obvious thing to say, but it just seems so hard. And even like when you're not even the president or prime minister anymore, like because obviously there's terms, you're still gonna like have to maybe not deal with this kind of stuff, but just you're still gonna have that sort of publicity and stuff like that. So it's just like you go for this for 5 to 10 years, and then when you're not like the leader of your country, you'll still have to have these kinds of sort of things in place. Maybe not to the same level, but maybe nowhere near to the same level. I'm not thinking properly, but you still have the same sort of like fame and publicity kind of thing. So it's just kind of like, I mean, personally I couldn't do it, but everyone else has their own sort of reasons for certain things, right?
Means that if
There's a
everything
lot
goes
of planning that
perfectly,
must have to go into
including
this.
transfer times,
A
it
lot.
will take almost exactly 1 hour for the president to go from stepping out of the White House to stepping inside the
I say that actually, but in terms of timing for certain things, you get to an airport, you leave within 5 minutes. You can basically go through places where it takes the average person 25 minutes in like 8 minutes. So there's obviously a lot of good things to this as well, and it probably is more good than bad. But I'm just sort of looking at it as like, it just seems like so much planning, and the cost as well. It makes sense as to why it costs so much, because you can see when there's all this kind of stuff why it does cost like this, because again, the effort and work put into this must be, or is just next level. And they've got to constantly change. You've got to fly, and you've got to get the helicopter, then you've got to drive, like all these things.
United Nations. And what is the cost of this hour-long trip? Well, it's public information that Air Force One costs an estimated $206,337 per flight hour. So this half-hour flight costs $103,169. But of course we need to include Marine One. Marine One by itself is actually fairly inexpensive to operate. While we don't know its exact operating cost, one of the helicopters often used as Marine One is the Sikorsky UH-60 Blackhawk, which costs $2,199 per flight hour. But of course Marine One always flies in formation with up to 5 other helicopters. Per helicopter, a quarter hour of flight time costs $530 or $3,180 total. The motorcade's cost for the short trip is fairly minuscule, so we'll leave it out for simplicity. But the helicopters and cars need to get to New York, and this is done by loading them up on a C-5 Galaxy cargo plane, which costs $100,941 per flight hour, or $50,471 for the half-hour-long trip to New York. Altogether, that's $156,820 for the hour-long trip to New York, or $2,614 per minute. And keep in mind that the president needs to travel back, too. Ultimately, transportation of the president costs the American taxpayer about
That's what I forgot as well. This is all tax. This is all go to the taxpayers. The average person will have to pay for this kind of stuff. That is crazy. That is insane.
$50 million per year. Roughly one quarter of mind that the president needs to travel back to. Ultimately, transportation of the president costs the American taxpayer about $350 million.
350 million? I thought you said 50 or 250. Oh my god.
$1 per year. Roughly one quarter of the $1.4 billion yearly White House budget. This is certainly a steep price, but many would argue that it's a small price to pay to keep the most powerful person in the world safe.
I get why.
This video was brought to you by Squarespace.
Especially when you have seen, in the past, presidents being killed in these kinds of scenarios. So it does make sense. Precautions got to be taken to the next level. But 350 million. That is crazy. Oh, hiccup's coming now. Plot twist, the president is actually on a motorcycle and all the car's props. The triple, quadruple bluff at that point. The driver's window isn't used for tolls, it's used for McDonald's drive-thru. When your overprotective mum becomes a billionaire. Plot twist, the president walks well, everyone's focused on the brigade. That's what I'm kind of thinking. Everyone focuses on that, but then the president actually gets a different way. I was just kind of thinking, why wouldn't you just sort of nah, actually, that wouldn't make sense. Just sort of have a normal car, just blacked out windows, a normal car that no one could detect. And you just drive that. But maybe that's just one of those things that it's just be too easy to sort of... it'd probably be too easy to and especially when you're in other countries as well. I'm more thinking when you're in the US alone. But it'd be a lot easier to just sort of find out that he's not actually in that sort of group of cars or the brigade. Motorcade gets under attack. President with a grenade launcher. I'm going to do what's called a pro-gamer move. Meanwhile, the Prince of Liechtenstein drinks coffee at a cafe and talks to his citizens while the King of Netherlands is piloting a plane. Really? That's kind of crazy. For a country that historically doesn't like paying a lot of taxes, this sounds very expensive. Mr. President, a nuke has just been launched against us. Alright, no problem, just move to the black truck. Imagine being at your toll booth, then a whole motorcade just pulled up at your window. Actually, each of these cars carries a single piece of President's body and he is resembled in the destination. People, man. But hopefully you guys enjoyed this reaction. There was no videos yesterday, I apologise for that. We're back with the reactions now. And yeah, hopefully you guys enjoyed this one. Until next time, subscribe, peace.